Welcome to Season 1 of Ciara Talks, where we dive into the minds and methods of high performers. I'm your host, Ciara Louise, and in each episode we will explore just what it takes to think bigger and perform better. Whether you're here to elevate your business, your mindset, or just your daily habits, you've come to the right place. Let's talk high performance. Johann, a very warm welcome onto Ciara Talks. Now, for anybody who doesn't already know, tell us, who is Johann Callaghan?
Well, Ciara, I am absolutely delighted to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So who is Johann Callaghan? That's a very interesting question. I am an international best-selling author. I'm a global speaker. I'm a podcast host myself, and I am a sleep expert. And, I help busy professionals, leaders, CEOs, all the busy people, even the successful people. I help them to be more productive by optimizing their energy, all with better sleep and better rest, because it's one of the things that many people overlook as a productivity tool. And the reason I got into this work was because I've had my own story, right? Grown up and all the rest. And I've experienced many nights of sleeplessness, many days of exhaustion, right? I worked in corporate for 17 years. And I remember one particular day that I was in work and I just couldn't take it anymore. I was a single mother. I had a child very, very young. So all that responsibilities, right? And bringing him to school in the mornings and before I started work and collecting him from child, all the things. And I was so tired. I used to go missing into the loos, and put the lid down and just sit there and have a little, 2-minute nap or 5-minute nap as long as I could. But I remember one day thinking, I can't continue this. I can't, it's not functional. It's not a good quality of life. There has to be another way. Now, I didn't know how, but I went off into the rest of my life with that thought in my head. And as I progressed through life, I did eventually leave that job because I was being overworked and undervalued and underpaid. And I was heading really close to burnout. In fact, I experienced depression and on antidepressant tablets and all that kind of stuff, right? And when I left the job and started looking after myself, and that question came up again. And that was when I went down the road of the entrepreneurial route. And I started getting into self-care and holistic care, massage, reflexology, all the things, right? Loved it. And then when I worked with my mentor, he said to me, Johann, he said, you got to write a book. Because that raises your credibility, right? It's one of the things that you need to have to raise your credibility so you get seen and heard. I was like, what am I going to write? I thought only famous people wrote books, And I said, Shani Mac, I don't know what to write about. But all my clients were coming to me for the massage and all the holistic therapies, and they were exhausted. They were all tired. They wanted to have more energy. And that's when I wrote the book on sleep. And as I wrote the book on sleep, done all the research, I found even more profound statistics and information about what sleep can provide for your well-being, for your health, your relationships, your productivity. Oh my God. And that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing today. And I absolutely love it. And I'm on a mission to help people to have more energy, to show up better in the world, to have an impact in their family and their business on the world as a whole. So I really believe the first tool, the first step, the foundation is better sleep and better rest. So there you go. That's my story.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you mentioned statistics there, and I know myself personally, and I'm sure the viewers at home would love to know some of these more in-depth statistics about sleep and how it can enhance your performance.
People are sacrificing sleep because they believe if they sleep 1 hour less, well, that's one more hour that they can have for work and productivity.
Yeah.
But it does show, if you go and do your lab tests, and it does show, there's markers there. If you have a short night of sleep, even one short night of sleep, which is about 5 hours, say, your immune system is compromised by between 50 and 70%. And that's according to Matthew Walker. At night, your immune system is built up. So all your T cells, your killer cells are literally made during sleep. And so even one night can compromise you. So you'll be more vulnerable and more susceptible to getting a cold or a flu. And also another statistic with VHI is 74% of people, they ring in sick or they're just not up to it. You know, if you're working in corporate or whatever, they're just not up to it because they're so tired. and they just don't have the energy, to get up and go into work and have a full day of performance. It's a long, long day. So there's some statistics, but they're actually startling, the amount of people that are actually losing sleep. But what's even more surprising is the amount of people who feel, I don't need 7 or 8 hours of sleep, because that's 7 or 9, between 7 and 9 hours is what is recommended for adults. But to people saying, I only need 6, and they brag like it's a badge of honour, that I don't need 7 or 9 hours of sleep. But, if you went for your lab tests, there will be markers there that will show that your immune system is compromised, or your blood sugar levels, or whatever. It's all there. So I encourage people, if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours, just try and increase it by 1 hour and do it for a week and see how your performance is and how you're showing up in the world. You will definitely feel so much better.
Absolutely believe that. So through your own personal journey then, I suppose, coming from that lack of sleep to then training yourself, I'm assuming, to have sufficient sleep now, how did that affect your journey through life, that sleep ratio?
Oh my God, absolutely incredible, because as I said, I bought my own house very young, and I was managing the house, all the bills, so all the worries and concerns about financial, we all have them, okay? I'm sure your listeners would be aware of that. It definitely is a worry and a concern, but it's amplified. All that worry and upset is amplified. Your amygdala, your emotional brain is amplified when you haven't slept. And for me, what I discovered was when I started sleeping well, because I had my own house. I came from a house of 10 people. There was 10 people in our house, right? And an alcoholic in it as well, right? So loads of sleepless nights. So when I eventually bought my own house, and even as a single mother, I was still struggling, but I was still getting better sleep. But I was able to get into a rhythm. So I had a rhythm, and this is the key: is to have a rhythm, have a routine. And I found that I was having less sick days, because I was one of those 74% people ringing in sick all the time. I was just too tired, I was just exhausted, and I was like, this isn't the way I want to live my life, and my whole spiritual energy, and we're all spiritual beings. I mean, that outlook on life, I just didn't want to get up in the mornings. I had nothing to live for, and it was very depressing. But when I discovered sleep and I started sleeping well, my immune system was getting stronger. I was more optimistic. I had more energy. I had better relationships with people. Like everything, I mean, absolutely everything that I encountered was better. Everything is better with better sleep. That's my motto. That's my little saying. And it really, really is. And I found that myself.
When I was doing my guided meditations, I found a lot of people were coming to me with insomnia and sleep deprivation, and I suppose just a really big struggle with falling asleep. So what would be your tips then as a sleep specialist for anybody who is struggling with that actual getting into the sleep state in the first place?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of focus now on sleep, right? And, I have people coming to me saying, Joanne, I'm not stressed now, but I can't sleep at night. And I'm like, well, if you can't sleep, there's a stress there, right? Because here's the thing. And there's all the tips are out there, the usual tips, and I will give you them. But really, it comes down to the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to the nervous system, because think about it. Your body has to feel safe to be able to sleep, right? Because it is the most vulnerable time. Back in the day when we lived in caves, you could have been eaten by a lion or a tiger when you fell asleep, right? So doesn't that make sense that sleep has to be absolutely necessary, right? So it's absolutely vital for life. We cannot survive unless we sleep. So looking after the nervous system and feeling safe. Now, that's physical, but it's also emotional. Mm-hmm. It's mental, it's spiritual. So are you feeling safe in the world? And this can go very deep, and even stuff that we're not aware of. So, for example, have you been having an argument with somebody lately, or have you not been talking to a family member for a long period of time? Because that is there is a feeling of unease in the body, and this impacts your nervous system. And it can go really, really deep. Now, we can try all the usual things and the normal tips, like getting daylight, getting sunshine first thing in the morning, because that resets the circadian rhythm. It's one of the cues. It's one of the vital cues and the most important cue for your rhythms, for your circadian rhythm. So we absolutely need daylight during the day, and we need movement during the daytime. And also when we're eating as well, that's another cue for your circadian rhythm. So it's all about being in sync with the circadian rhythm. And when you're in sync and when you're in rhythm, it's a calming, it's calming for the nervous system, because the nervous system is expecting that. And if you've ever had like an all-nighter or a late night, the body is always trying to get back into this rhythm, and that is a stress in and of itself. So it's all these things. So the less stress that we impose on the body, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then the more you're allowing the environment, your body, to be able to switch naturally to sleep. So does that make sense to you? I mean, it's really all about safety, the body feeling safe to allow the natural onset of sleep. And like when I discovered that, I was like, oh my God, it's so simple, but yet we make it so difficult.
Yeah.
We're looking for all the remedies and the supplements, and they help. But, you know, ultimately I'm looking for us at the nervous system.
So really then what you're saying is there is no quick fix to getting yourself into sleep. It's the holistic picture of your lifestyle and your day and your mood and I suppose your health.
Yeah. And you know what? We're all individuals, and I'm glad you said that. Like there's no one, like there's all the general things that we can do. There's the sleepy foods, there's the supplements, there's, you know, the lavender oil, all these things, right? They help and they're great. But ultimately the body has to feel safe. And it depends on what's going on in your life and what's going on in the listeners, you know, the viewers that are listening today. What's going on in your life, you know, that might be upsetting or dysregulating your nervous system. You know, have you ever, there's a lot of self-sabotage, right? So you've heard that word. A lot of people giving out about themselves, you know, saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'll never be this, and I'm an idiot. And we say these things to ourselves, right? We talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to our best friends. Right. So we're very hard on ourselves. And when you're doing that, you're dishonoring yourself. You're not accepting who you are. There's no acceptance there of who you are, warts and all, like accepting yourself as you are, right? Because we're perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect, whatever the saying is, right?
Both.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we have to accept ourselves as we are and not sit there and not have to, you know, be a victim about, you know, all our circumstances. But learn from everything that's going on, learn from our mistakes, learn from our failures. And failures are a good thing. It's not a negative thing. It's not something to be getting upset about. Yes, it might be uncomfortable, but we can grow in resilience, and it will help our nervous system as well be more adaptable, because we're always going to have life upsets. We always are. And as human beings, I believe that it's in our nature to learn and grow and evolve through all the upsets that are occurring in our life. And it comes down to the individual and their perspective. It's all up here. It's all, I believe that your success, 90% of your success comes from here, how you think and how you problem solve. And when you sleep well, your amygdala, your emotional center is not amplified. It's not, because we're easily triggered, because the brain is always looking for a way to be safe when we're tired. And it's over amplified, right? It's very sensitive. And this is why we get triggered and we're looking for all the negative things and all the what ifs. Whereas if we have a good night of sleep, we're more content, with more peace of mind. And now we can look forward into the future where we can create and evolve and all that great stuff. I'm very excited about it. I could talk about it forever, but I really do believe there is a bigger picture here to look at. In terms of getting better sleep and just showing up better in the world and being more productive and having more success.
And that is the baseline then for that. I mean, I know that you do a lot of corporate work, so with high performing individuals. So what does working with you look like then from the perspective of a sleep specialist? How do you help those individuals that need it?
It's interesting because in the work environment, you know, it's all about, and there's a lot of work wellness now coming on board. There's an awful lot of it, and it's really important. Because there are a lot of people who are working who do not feel valued in their jobs. And most people who leave corporate, the main reason is because they don't feel safe in the job. They don't feel valued, needed, you know, and that's an element of safety, because one of the human needs is safety, right? So when a person feels valued, they will work more optimally. They will be more inclined to get involved in teamwork and show up better, and not necessarily having to prove their worth, but been able to contribute more effectively. And this is what this is about. It's been more effective and been able to use their strengths as well and tap into their strengths, whatever that is, because we all have different strengths. But I think in corporate, and for me, you know, what I really work around is helping people to sustain their energy because, you know, most people work 9 to 5 and we were never designed to work all the way through. And we were just not designed that way. This is how we get burnout and exhaustion. And we end up, we show up the next day and we're just catching up, and we're not showing up at our best, at our full capacity. So I discovered this one thing. It's called a BRAC cycle, B-R-A-C, a BRAC cycle. It's the basic rest and activity cycle. So at nighttime when we're asleep, and we have this 90-minute period of a cycle, and it was discovered back in the 1950s. But we also have the same cycle during the daytime, and it's a rest and recovery cycle. So basically, the idea behind it is for every 90 minutes or so that we're working, we need to have a period of rest and recovery. Have you heard of it?
No.
Yeah. So it's really like, I mean, and it's all back down to rhythms. Everything is rhythms, right? And there's loads of like circadian rhythm. This is called the ultradian rhythm as well. It's known as the BRAC cycle, but it's also called the ultradian rhythm. So this 90-minute cycle, so for every 90 minutes or so that we're working, and it depends on the effort, the expenditure of the energy that you're using, right? And it also is different types of energy. So there's physical energy, there's mental, emotional, and spiritual energy as well. So take, for example, mental. So mental is all the headspace, you know, so your concentration, you're at your computer and you're concentrating on very focused work, right? So after about 90 minutes, you need to take a mental break. So that could be walking, even though you're physically walking, it could be literally walking over to the water cooler machine and grabbing a drink of water just for 2 minutes and having a chat with somebody at the water machine, you know, for 2 minutes, and then coming back to your work. You're taking a break, and that's a mental break. So you're freeing up the mental space in your head. So it's taking a break. It could be breathing. I call them recovery snacks. It could be doing like taking 3 deep breaths. Now, I'm sure the boss is not going to come over to you and say you're not allowed to breathe, right? So taking 3 deep breaths and just closing your eyes, taking 3 deep breaths, letting your belly expand, because breathing is so effective, Ciara. It is so effective, and you can do this anywhere, this deep breathing. We don't breathe correctly for the most part. When we expand our belly, you're literally telling your body, I am safe. And then when you feel safe, you're activating the vagus nerve and you can be more focused. Think about if you run away from a lion or a tiger, all you're focused on is just the extremities, the exterior world, getting away. Whereas if you're more focused, you have more concentration, but you're also using your whole brain, using your left and your right brain. You're using the creativity brain. You're using the innovation part of your brain. You can make decisions a lot quicker. Whereas if you're in fight or flight, the amygdala is activated, you're in the primal fear center, and you're reactive. So when we take these breaks, we're optimizing all of our nervous system using the right and left brain. I mean, it's just profound the extent that it goes. But literally simply by managing this 90-minute cycle and taking regular breaks and recovery snack breaks, I call them. Another one is simply if you use the screen quite a lot, I use the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look away from the screen, look 20 meters into the distance for 20 seconds. Yeah. And that will help with eye strain. Lots of myopia and headaches and migraines and all this, you know, from over screen use. So that's what I typically do, Ciara. So I don't know where you want to go from there, but I can talk quite a lot about it.
So say, for example, if I came to you and I said, Johann, look, I am not having sufficient sleep. I may be getting 2 to 3 hours of broken sleep every night. I'm having trouble falling into the sleep state. Where would you suggest somebody like that start when it comes to building those, I suppose, healthy sleep habits?
Yeah, great question. And there's many places that we could start, and it depends on the individual. But here's one thing that I'm seeing quite a lot, and it's a very big mistake. So 75% of people, probably even more, bring their phones to bed at nighttime with them. And it interrupts sleep. It has an impact on getting asleep at nighttime. So many people come to me and tell me that they have difficulty getting asleep at night. And even when they do fall asleep, then they're waking up in the middle of the night. And then there's some people that are waking up too early and they can't go back to sleep. So what's happening is we need melatonin. Melatonin is our sleep hormone. So there's a couple of ways that we can optimize melatonin. Obviously, the first thing is getting daylight first thing in the morning to switch off the melatonin, right? Because melatonin is highest in the evening and it's lowest in the morning time. So when it comes to the phone use at nighttime, we have the blue light on the screen. So the blue light is mimicking our natural daylight, our natural sunlight. So it's confusing the brain. The brain thinks it's daylight. So all the systems are online thinking it's daytime. The onset of sleep is not going to initiate because your brain still thinks it's daytime. So that's the first thing, the blue light on the phone. And then the other thing, and there's a couple of things happening with the phone. So now you're scrolling, and you're scrolling through Facebook, or you're checking your emails, and I'll just do this for 5 minutes. And half an hour later or an hour later, you're still on the phone. And I'm sure you've heard this many times. You may have experienced it yourself, Ciara.
I think we're all getting this.
Yeah. And look, it's not your fault. You know, it's not people's fault, because the designers of these platforms, they're all psychologists and they know what they're doing. It's all about keeping you addicted and keeping your attention on the phone. And you're having a rise in dopamine. Dopamine is an excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. So it increases your brain waves. So now that your brain waves are increased, there's no way you're going to have an onset of sleep. You've got a busy brain, right? And the brain waves have to slow down for the onset of sleep. So now you've got the brain waves and the dopamine, and you've got the blue light and the melatonin being impacted. So there's a couple of things going on with the phone. Now, even iPads, you know, and some people say, what about a TV? Well, as long as you don't have, I do watch TV before I go to bed, but it's the content. So watch like a comedy or something lighthearted that's going to make you laugh. Don't watch a thriller or any kind of content like that, because you're going to bed with that in your brain when you're going to sleep at nighttime. So be careful of the content you're consuming. Even if you're reading a book, don't read a thriller or a suspense, right? Because you're putting that content in your head before you go to sleep at night. So I'd say I would start there, and I would definitely ask that question, because it's nearly a universal thing that people are using their phones when they're going to bed at nighttime. And then the second thing that I would look at is, well, how are you waking up in the morning? Again, a very high percentage of people in the first half an hour, what do they do? Reaching for their phones first thing in the morning, to check their emails, to check their WhatsApp, to check social media, before they've even said good morning to their significant other. Yeah. So now what's that doing? Well, that's telling your significant other subconsciously, your phone is more important than me.
That's the priority. Yeah.
And we're all doing that with our children as well. So this is something, if you're a parent as well, to watch out for that too, because we're literally telling our children that as well. And what's the one thing children absolutely need to thrive in this world is to feel safe. If they don't feel like they belong and are safe, well, you know, it's what way are they going to turn out right now? I know it's a big thing, but we absolutely need our children to feel safe in the world for them to thrive. And same when we're having relationships. We are creatures where we need to feel belong. Even as adults, we need to belong. And in teams, in the working place as well, the work environment, we need to feel that we belong and we're part of and we're valued and all of that. So the second thing was, I'd ask, how are you starting your mornings as well? Are you getting daylight first thing in the morning? Because that switches off your melatonin and it allows cortisol to come on. We need cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's not a baddie. It's not entirely a baddie. We do need cortisol. It's highest in the morning naturally. And so we want cortisol to come on in the morning, because that's what has us focused and alert. And that's when we get our best concentration work, is first thing in the morning. So there are two areas that I would look at first for almost everybody.
Yeah. And you mentioned cortisol there as well, which for a while it was almost like this big bad word.
Yeah.
I myself had looked into it and I'd seen how people online were promoting cortisol detoxes and how it's causing you to have a puffy face and a puffy everything and stress. And then when you look a little bit deeper, I had actually read somewhere similar to what you've just said, how it is invaluable. You need it. It's that get up and go. It's that signal, you know, that we're in the world, right? Don't just be sedentary. You know, it's kind of, it's the action, isn't it?
And it has a rhythm. It has a rhythm. It has its own rhythm. So again, it's back to these rhythms. And all our hormones have rhythms. All of our hormones have rhythms. Even there's a best time to eat. If you look at the Ayurveda principles or the Chinese principles, they say eat like a king in the morning and eat like a queen in the early afternoon and like a pauper in the evening. And what is meant by that is, if you look at our blood flow, so our blood flow has a rhythm as well. Most of our blood flow in the morning up to the brain. In the morning time, that's why the highest concentration, best time for focus In the afternoon is best time for creativity. The blood flow is now going down into the digestive system, and this is the best time to eat and absorb. So you may be eating the right types of food, but are you absorbing? So the best time for absorption is in the early afternoon. But what's the biggest mistake we're doing is we're eating big, heavy meals, like maybe an hour before we go to bed. And that's having an impact on how we digest food. It's having an impact on blood sugar, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, obesity, overweight, all these things. It's absolutely massive. And diabetes is massively on the increase. I think it's 4.4 million in the UK. And there's a lot of people that are undiagnosed as well at the moment. So it's massive. And 6 out of 10 people in Ireland are either overweight or obese. And that is a sign. It's not like you can be thin and have type 2 diabetes as well.
Absolutely.
But it is a big factor. And there is a massive correlation with overweight and obesity with lack of sleep. And it's all to do with the hormones. So, I do there's a whole section in my course modules that I do all on weight management with better sleep, because it's massive and a lot of people don't put the two of them together.
No, you absolutely wouldn't naturally put sleep and obesity beside each other, but then going back to that word holistic again. It's every part working as a system for the ultimate good.
Yeah.
I do have another question that I've been dying to ask you as well. I have heard that women biologically need more sleep than men. How true is this? Fiction?
Well, I would agree with that. I would. And I have seen articles actually in the newspapers, maybe last year I think I did see one, and I did do a radio interview on that question actually there a long time ago. Yes, women do need more sleep than men, and here's why. So biologically, yes, but if you also look at how women have performed in the world, right, over the last 4 or 5 generations, right, we're doing it all. There's a lot expected from women in society. And now women are starting to emerge into the role of leadership roles. And they have the skills, the empathy, the compassion, all those things, right? Now, men are good in leadership roles as well, but we need more women in leadership roles, right? Because those skills are predominantly required, and especially now in the world with how we're living and how things are going. But women are still doing the leadership roles. They're going out to work now, right? More so than ever, right? You know, the husband and wife now are both working, sometimes have 2 or 3 jobs even, right? With all the financials that have to be looked after. But now the women are going home and they're washing the uniform for the kids for school. They're minding the elders. They're cleaning the house. They're doing all of that more so than the man is, because it's unconsciously expected. And even the woman is naturally automatically doing that as well. So there has to be a break in this pattern. And then on top of that, women are experiencing menopause, and they have the monthly cycles, right? The period and the monthly cycles as well. And then they're transitioning to perimenopause and menopause. And that takes a drain. Lots of interruptions with sleep, with night sweats, and all of that, right? That's happening as well. So there's a lot that women are contending with. So we need to recover and rejuvenate our energy. And we absolutely need to prioritise self-care now more than ever before. We really do. We have to put our own oxygen mask on first. Typically, you know, if you see in any household, right, the woman will be dishing out the food for everybody. And who is last to sit down at the table? The woman is, right? More often than not, right? So she's prioritising everybody else. So the woman has to start prioritising herself, her own self-care. If she needs to go out for a walk and be on her own, then that needs to happen. But the woman has to look after herself now more than ever, because we're living in a world where it's getting faster and busier, more demands, more pressure, and women are going out into the workplace. They're still doing it all at home. So under the menopause, all that. So we have to start looking after, and we owe it to ourselves, and we deserve it, and we're worthy of it.
Absolutely. So really then it is the recovery process, because our output biologically is a bit more.
Yeah.
We need that extra recovery time then.
Yeah.
After, well, you can preach that from the hilltops.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Give me a microphone, I will. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
But it's essential, you know, that we have to start, because it's about our capacity meeting demands. So all the demand, because, you know, when we're about 30 years of age, we had all the capacity, our bodies were very forgiving. But as we're transitioning through life, just because we're aging, right, grown older, some people like to say, I'm talking about chronological age, okay, chronological age here, right? Just to put it correctly. But as we're getting older, it doesn't mean we're getting frail or we're getting weaker. No, like, we do need to look after ourselves a little bit more than we used to, because at the age of 30, we were kind of at our prime then and we had full capacity. Whereas now we have to really make sure we're doing the recovery, eating well, looking after ourselves, and giving that environment for our body, because our body knows what to do. Our body is so intelligent. Like, it's just, I just honour my body. It's just so intelligent. But you just have to give it the right environment for it to thrive, and give it the right amount of sleep and good quality of sleep, so that you will thrive in life and have the health span as opposed to lifespan. We want a good, healthy, quality health span. So it's all really important, Ciara.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you're telling me things that I really didn't know, and that is such an interesting topic, because not a lot of people would think about sleep. When you say higher performance, it's usually all go, 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 and it's not taking that step back and looking at the recuperation of the self.
Yeah.
But before we come to a close, I would love for you to share with the viewers something that you think that you would like for them to learn from this conversation, a golden nugget to take home to them.
God, a golden nugget. You know what? Really become aware of when you're feeling tired, physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Identify and become aware of, and you don't have to know the how. It's just identifying that first of all, because awareness is the first step. So are you hanging around with people who are complainers? I call them BMWs, the blamers, the moaners and the whiners, right? So are you getting knocked down, right? Are you getting knocked down and knocked over by BMWs, right? That is very emotionally draining, and it can be mentally draining as well. So maybe you might need to step away from those people, because it is draining your reserves and you're not doing yourself any favours. So like, identify things like that, write out a list. Write out a list of all the things that you like to do for a rest, your hobbies, or do you like to go and walk in nature? Do you like even music? Music can be so uplifting and recovery as well. So write out a list and have that as your go-to for your recovery snack. Take in the breathing, do your power poses, right? They're really important, your power poses, because body language, and it can really, that's a message from your body to your brain. So there's lots of different things that you can do, but the first step is to be aware of when you're feeling tired, and then have that list at hand of how you're going to take a break. And it can be just as simple as 2 minutes. Don't make it overcomplicated, otherwise you won't do it. So really identify, because you know what, you can be as successful and everything can be going great in your job, and if you're an entrepreneur or leader, everything can be going fantastic, and you could be very successful. But if you keep going down, it's not sustainable. You will eventually come to burnout, and I've heard of so many people experiencing burnout. So take these little breaks often. And you will find that your energy will be far more sustainable and optimized, and you will sleep so much better as well and deeper at night time again, and that will help you to show up at your best for the next day.
And there we go. JOHANN Callaghan, thank you so much for featuring on the podcast. You have been an absolute pleasure to chat with.
Thanks a million, Ciara. I totally enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Ciara Talks. If you loved this conversation, then share it, tag us, and let us know what your favourite insight from today was. Each season, the guest with the most amount of views will be invited back on for the next season, so your support could help bring them back here again. Sponsorship opportunities are now open, so if you or your brand feel aligned with Ciara Talks, then reach out at admin@ciaralouise.life. I'll see you all at the next episode.